Look who's getting a WrestleMania. It's Saudi Arabia in 2027. Boy, have we come so far away from, 2018 during Crown Jewel, where people were virtue signaling, pretending like they cared about the murder of that journalist. That's back when Vince McMahon was still in control, and they were talking about how they were excluding women, human rights issues involved with going to Saudi. And fast forward years later, the WWE has gone back several times to Saudi Arabia, now in partnership with Netflix and ESPN. SJW Supreme CM Punk even apologized to the Saudis not too long ago, which makes more sense now knowing that WrestleMania is now coming to Saudi Arabia. And we're just left with yet another example of liberals being shamelessly hypocritical. I mean, their shameless hypocrisy knows no bounds. I mean, obviously, we see they co-sign murder. So, you can't get any worse than that. But here we are. Because the whole thing about Saudi Arabia and the criticisms about it in 2018, and I called it out back then, on a previous channel that's now been deleted. But the whole argument was that we can't tolerate a theocratic nation, an oppressive nation like Saudi Arabia. And of course this would happen under Vince McMahon and back then during Trump's first administration. Of course this would happen then. But now you have Hollywood libtards running that company, and not only have they come back to Saudi Arabia multiple times, but apparently they're hiking up the prices constantly. Being typical Hollywood. And then, of course, you have women standing there fully clothed in suits who, are loudmouth, prostitute dressing whores when they're in America. See, you'll never get them to present any sort of respectability in America for American audiences. The same way you could never get CM Punk to apologize to Americans for his incendiary stance against certain groups of people in America. But bring them to Saudi Arabia, a royal family that murders political opposition in the form of journalists. Oh, yeah, you can get them to apologize any day. And you know what? That's a credit to the Saudis. Because as much as they being, the virtue signalers of the world, as much as they would maybe want to criticize some of the things the Saudis do, and sometimes do, the fact of the matter is the Saudis will get these people to bend to their will because the money that they have. But it's not just because of the money that they have, it's because they won't flinch. They won't stand down when it comes to their beliefs. And it's something that, the so-called right could learn. But, yeah, this is just another example of shameless hypocrisy. And, when I came across the news, I just had to talk about it. Because it just really shows that any words that comes out of liberals' mouths when it comes to virtue signaling, when it comes to claiming to standing for something moral, means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. And if they had any dignity, they just would shut their mouths, especially celebrity liberals. Because, especially when they're in the entertainment industry, they're constantly compelled to do things that go against their so-called beliefs. Because, the entertainment industry is global, and more often than not, they do business with nations that they're supposedly against based on their beliefs. But the fact of the matter is, and what I learned a long time ago, liberals stand for nothing but chaos. You know, I mean, hell, they probably retroactively congratulate the Saudis for killing off political opposition, since they clearly co-signed it here in the United States, trying to off Trump, offing Charlie Kirk, offing many other people, calling for violence against other people over political words. So yeah, they're not really that much different from the Saudis, outside of the fact that Saudis actually wouldn't and don't tolerate violent criminals and insufferable asshats that try to disrupt society, because they actually severely punish people, which is why you know countries like Saudi Arabia are very clean and organized when you move through them. But anyway, WrestleMania is coming to Saudi Arabia, and maybe in a couple of years they'll end up going to North Korea, or better yet, Russia.